My son stood over me laughing while I moaned in pain holding my broken leg. "Don't pretend, Mom," he said, as if my suffering was a joke. This man I had raised, sacrificing everything, turned out to be a wanted criminal. His disdain was the last straw. I picked up the phone and dialed 911, feeling my anger drown out my mother's love. It was the beginning of my revenge, not just against him, but against everyone who had betrayed my trust. They thought I was weak. They were wrong. I fell down the stairs and struggled to get up, feeling overwhelmed. My fingers dug into the worn carpet, its fibers rough against my skin, grounding me against the fire in my ankle. Michael's laugh sliced through the air, high and cruel, like he was watching a bad comedy. "Stop faking, Mom," he said, his voice dripping with scorn. He leaned against the wall, a beer bottle dangling from his hand, the label peeling like the wallpaper around us. His muddy sneakers had left streaks on the floor I'd scrubbed just yesterday. I tried to speak, but my throat was tight, words stuck like shards of glass. The living room smelled of stale hops and dust, the kind that settles when you've given up on dreaming. A shattered vase lay near the couch, its jagged pieces glinting under the lamplight. A gift from my mother, now as broken as I felt. I tripped and fell down the stairs during an argument. He hadn't even looked back. "Michael," I rasped, my voice barely a whisper. "Help me." He snorted, pacing now, his boots thumping against the floorboards. "Help you? After you nagged me to death." His eyes flicked to the front door, its chipped paint a reminder of all the times he'd stormed out, leaving me to pick up the pieces. He was twitchy, more than usual, his free hand shoving through his greasy hair. I wondered what he was running from this time. I'd seen the signs for months, late-night calls, his name in a police blotter for a bar fight, whispers of a warrant for unpaid fines that had spiraled into something bigger. The police? Debt collectors? I'd bailed him out so many times, my savings a ghost of what they'd been. But tonight, something in his sneer told me he was deeper in trouble than I knew. I shifted, biting back a cry as my legs screamed. My phone lay a few feet away, its screen a faint beacon on the carpet. If I could just reach it. My fingers stretched, trembling as sweat beaded on my forehead. Michael didn't notice, too busy muttering to himself, his shadow looming over the coffee table littered with his junk, empty cans, a crumpled pack of cigarettes. This was my house, my life's work, and he treated it like a pit stop. "You're pathetic," he said suddenly, stopping to glare at me. "Always playing the martyr. Poor Beth, sacrificing everything for her screw-up son." His lips curled, and I saw the boy I'd raised vanish, replaced by this stranger who hated me. My chest ached, not from the fall, but from the truth in his words. I had given everything. Nights in the hospital as a nurse, dreams of seeing Paris, every penny I'd saved. For him. My hand closed around the phone. The plastic was cool, solid, a lifeline. I pulled it toward me, ignoring the way my vision blurred. Michael's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. "What are you doing?" he demanded, taking a step closer. His boots were inches from my hand, close enough for me to smell the leather and dirt. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady despite the pain. "You don't get to do this anymore." He laughed again, but it was forced, his gaze darting to the door. "You're gonna call the cops? On me?" He crouched, his face inches from mine, the beer on his breath sour. "You wouldn't dare." I pressed the phone to my ear, my thumb shaking as I dialed 911. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, but I yanked it free, the pain in my leg fueling me. "Yes, hello," I said, my voice cracking but firm. "I need help. My son, he hurt me. I'm at 1427 Maple Drive." Michael's face twisted, a mix of shock and rage. He stood, kicking the coffee table, sending cans clattering. "You're serious? You're screwing me over." His voice was loud, but there was a crack in it, a hint of fear. He glanced at the door again like he could outrun what was coming. The operator's voice was calm, asking questions I barely heard. My eyes stayed on Michael, on the way his hands clenched, the way he looked at me like I was nothing. "Please hurry," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Outside, the faint wail of sirens cut through the night, growing louder, closer. Michael froze, his face paling. He took a step toward the door, then stopped, turning back to me. His eyes were cold, but there was something else there, panic. "You'll regret this, Mom," he said, his voice low, a promise. You have no idea what you're starting. The sirens were deafening now, red and blue lights flashing through the curtains. I clutched the phone tighter, my heart pounding not with fear, but with something new, resolve. As the front door rattled with a knock, I wondered what I just unleashed, and whether I was ready for what came next. The police station smelled of burnt coffee and disinfectant, a sharp contrast to the chaos in my head. I sat on a hard bench, my leg in a temporary brace, the ache dulled by painkillers but still gnawing at me. Officers bustled past, their radios crackling, while I watched Michael through a glass window. He was cuffed, slouched in a chair. His jaw tight as a slick-looking man in a suit leaned in to whisper. Robert King, his lawyer, with a watch that screamed money and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Michael's gaze met mine for a moment, hard and accusing, before he looked away. "Mrs. Crawford," King said, approaching me, his voice smooth as oil. "You've put your son in a tough spot. Assault, resisting arrest. Not a good look." He adjusted his cufflinks like this was just another Tuesday. "You could make this easier. Drop the charges." I stared at him, my hands folded in my lap, the phone in my pocket heavy as a brick. "He pushed me down the stairs," I said, my voice low but steady. "He's not the victim here." King's smile didn't waver. "Family disputes get messy. Think about what this does to him, to you." He leaned closer, his cologne sharp. "You don't want this kind of trouble, Elizabeth." I didn't answer, just watched as an officer led Michael away, his cuffs clinking. Days passed in a blur, each one heavier with the weight. The precinct kept me updated. Michael's bail hearing was set for the end of the week, his lawyer working fast to secure his release. The station's noise faded as I limped out, the cold air biting my face. By the time I got home, the silence was worse. The living room was a wreck, broken vase shards still on the floor, a pot of geraniums tipped over, its soil scattered like ashes. I sank onto the couch, my leg throbbing, and stared at the mess. This was my life now, cracked open, spilling out. The phone rang, shrill in the quiet. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. Linda's name flashed, and my stomach twisted. I answered, bracing myself. "Beth." Her voice was honeyed, but there was a knife in it. "How could you do this? Your own son arrested? You've torn this family apart." I gripped the phone, my knuckles whitening. "He hurt me, Linda. He's not a kid anymore." She sighed, dramatic, like I was the one being unreasonable. "He's troubled, yes, but turning him in? That's cold, even for you." A pause, then softer. "You've always been so self-righteous. Think about what people will say. Our family dragged through the mud." Her words stung, each one a needle. I pictured her in her overdone house, all marble counters and unpaid bills, playing the martyr. She'd borrowed thousands from me over the years, never repaid a cent, always with an excuse. And Michael, she'd egged him on, whispering in his ear, turning him against me. I saw it now, clear as the broken pot at my feet. "I did what I had to," I said, my voice tight. "He's not my responsibility anymore." Linda laughed, sharp and bitter. "Oh, Beth, you think this ends with a police report? You're in over your head." Another pause, then. "You'll see what happens when you betray your own." The line went dead. I sat there, the phone warm in my hand, her words echoing. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence that presses on your chest. I stood, wincing as I moved, and started sweeping up the soil, each motion deliberate, like I could sweep away her venom too. But it clung to me, her voice, Michael's glare, the lawyer's smugness. I limped to the kitchen, the floor cold under my bare feet. The fridge hummed, a familiar sound, but it didn't comfort me. I opened a drawer, pulling out an old photo album, its cover worn from years of handling. I flipped to a picture of Michael at 10, grinning on a bike I'd worked overtime to buy. His eyes were bright then, not shadowed like now. I traced the photo, my throat tight. Where had that boy gone? And how had I missed it? The front door creaked in its frame, stirred by the wind. I glanced at it, half expecting Michael to barge in, but it stayed shut. Outside, a dog barked, sharp and distant. I set the album down, my hands shaking, and sank back onto the couch. Linda's words, Michael's threat, they weren't just threats. They were promises. And I wasn't sure what I'd do next, but sitting here, staring at that photo, I knew one thing. I wasn't done fighting. The album lay open on my lap, Michael's young face staring up at me. Frozen in a moment I couldn't get back. The living room was dim, the lamp casting shadows on the peeling wallpaper, a jagged tear near the doorway where I'd once hung his school photos. My leg ached, propped on a stool, but the real pain was in my chest, a dull throb that hadn't stopped since Linda's call. I flipped a page, and there we were, me, Michael, Linda, at a barbecue years ago. I was smiling, tired but proud, while Linda smirked, her arm around Michael like she was his mother, not me. I'd ignored it then. I shouldn't have. I closed the album, the snap loud in the quiet. The house felt too big, too empty, its creaks and groans a reminder of all I'd held together alone. I'd been a nurse for 30 years, working nights, skipping vacations, all for Michael. For his clothes, his school, his dreams. And Linda, she'd taken too, her loans piling up, her promises as empty as the bottles Michael left behind. I'd thought it was love, giving them everything. Now I saw it for what it was, blindness. I needed air. I grabbed my crutches, wincing as I stood, and hobbled to the front door. The park was a short walk, its swings and benches a place I'd gone with Michael when he was small. The October air was crisp, leaves crunching under my crutches as I made my way down the street. The neighborhood was quiet, houses glowing with warmth I didn't feel. I reached the park and sank onto a bench, the wood cold through my coat. Beth. A voice soft but familiar, pulled me back. Claire Thompson, my neighbor, stood there, her gray hair tucked under a scarf, a coffee cup in her hand. You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a smile, my hands tightening on the crutches. Feels like it. She sat beside me, her eyes kind but searching. I heard about Michael. The whole street's buzzing. You okay? I looked at the swings, swaying slightly in the breeze, and saw Michael at 5, laughing as I pushed him. I don't know, I said, my voice low. I keep thinking about all I gave up. For him. For Linda. And they just laughed. Claire sipped her coffee, her silence an invitation. I went on, the words spilling out. I wanted to travel, Claire. See the world. Instead, I paid for Michael's mistakes, Linda's debts. I thought I was helping, but they used me. And I let them. She touched my arm, her hand warm. You're not to blame, Beth. But what now? You can't let them keep hurting you. Her words landed heavy, stirring something in me. I thought of Michael's sneer, Linda's venom. They'd counted on me staying weak, staying silent. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I'm done being their doormat, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Claire nodded, but her eyes were wary. Just be careful. Michael's not the type to let this go. And Linda, she trailed off, shaking her head. She's always wanted what you have. I didn't answer, just watched the leaves skitter across the path. Claire stood, squeezing my shoulder. Come by if you need me, she said, then walked off, her scarf fluttering. I stayed a moment longer, the park's quiet sinking into me. Then made my way home, the crutches digging into my palms. Back in the house, I went to the desk in the corner, its drawers stuffed with years of papers. I pulled out a folder of bank statements, the paper yellowed, some edges torn. I hadn't looked at them in years, too busy working, too trusting. But something Claire said, about Linda wanting what I had, nagged at me. I flipped through the pages, my eyes scanning numbers, dates. Then I stopped. A withdrawal, $5,000 from 3 years ago. I hadn't made it. My heart thudded as I checked another, then another. Smaller amounts, but too many, all when Michael was borrowing my card. I set the papers down, my hands trembling. He hadn't just taken my love, my time. He'd stolen from me, bit by bit. His troubles weren't new. Petty thefts, skipped court dates, now escalated to draining my accounts, each crime bolder than the last. And Linda, had she known? Encouraged it? The phone sat on the desk, its screen dark but calling to me. I picked it up, scrolling to Detective Wilson's number. My thumb hovered over the call button, the front door behind me still, but heavy with the weight of what I was about to do. Whatever came next, I was ready to open it. The police station was a maze of noise, radios crackling, phones ringing, the low hum of a printer spitting out endless forms. I sat across from Detective Sarah Wilson, my crutches propped against the chair, a folder of bank statements spread between us like a map to my betrayal. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the cluttered desk, where a chipped mug held pens instead of coffee. My hands were steady, but my pulse raced, each beat a reminder of what I was here to do. "These withdrawals," Wilson said, her voice calm but sharp, tapping a page with her pen. "They're consistent, Elizabeth. Thousands over years. Did you authorize any of them?" I shook my head, my throat tight. "No." I thought. I trusted him. The number stared up at me, stark and accusing. $5,000 here, $2,000 there, siphoned from the account I'd built for retirement, for a life I'd never lived. Michael's face flashed in my mind. Not the sneering man from last week, but the boy who'd hugged me when I bought him that bike. The memory stung, but I pushed it down. No more excuses. Wilson leaned back, her dark eyes softening. "I'm sorry, Beth. It's hard when it's family. But this is enough to build a case, fraud, maybe more depending on where the money went." She scribbled a note, her pen scratching like a warning. "Any chance someone else was involved? Family, friends?" I hesitated. Linda's voice echoing from our last call, all sugar and venom. "My sister," I said slowly. She was close to Michael, always bailing him out, egging him on. I didn't have proof, not yet, but the thought of her hands in this mess felt right, like a puzzle piece snapping into place. Wilson nodded, jotting another note. "We'll look into it. For now, we'll trace these accounts. If Michael's been funneling money, we'll find out where." She slid the folder back to me, her expression firm but kind. "You did the right thing coming here." I managed a small smile, my first in days. "I hope so." Standing, I tucked the folder under my arm, the weight of it grounding me. My leg throbbed as I maneuvered the crutches, but I straightened my shoulders, feeling taller than I had in years. The station's chaos faded as I limped out, the cold Chicago air sharp against my face. Back home, the house was too still, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak. I set the folder on the kitchen table, its surface scarred from years of meals and arguments. A cracked coffee mug sat by the sink, a relic from a hospital gift shop. Its handle chipped like my trust. I started sorting through mail, bills mostly, until a crisp envelope caught my eye. No stamp, just my name in sharp black ink. My stomach twisted as I opened it, the paper thick, expensive. It was from Robert King, Michael's lawyer. "Dear Mrs. Crawford," it read, all formal and cold. "Be advised that bail proceedings for Michael Crawford are underway. Your cooperation in dropping the assault charges would expedite matters and benefit all parties." The words blurred, my hands shaking. Bail. He could be out soon, maybe tomorrow. And cooperation? That was a threat, dressed up in legalese. I crumpled the letter, my breath ragged. The kitchen clock ticked, each second a countdown. Michael free, with his sneers and his rage. Linda, no doubt pulling strings, her voice in my ear, accusing me of betrayal. I'd struck first, given Wilson the evidence. But this was their move now, and it was fast. Too fast. The phone on the table buzzed, shattering the silence. I flinched, my heart lurching. The screen glowed, an unknown number. I stared at it, my fingers hovering, the crumpled letter still in my other hand. The buzz came again, insistent, like a warning. I took a breath, steadying myself, and reached for the phone, unsure who was on the other side, or what they wanted. Claire's voice was hushed, urgent, as she leaned over the fence between our yards. "Beth, he's out." "Michael." I heard it from Mrs. Delaney, who heard it from the precinct clerk. Her eyes were wide, her scarf slipping as she clutched a rake, leaves piling at her feet. The morning sun was weak, casting long shadows across the grass, and my stomach churned like I'd swallowed glass. "Out," I repeated, my voice flat. The crutches dug into my armpits, my legs still aching. "How?" "I just gave Wilson the evidence yesterday." Claire glanced around, like someone might overhear. "Bail. Someone paid it, fast. And Beth, people are talking. They say you turned on your own son." Her words landed like a slap, but her face was soft, worried. "I know it's not true, but you need to be careful." I nodded, my jaw tight, and hobbled back inside. The house smelled of dust and yesterday's coffee, the air heavy with what Claire didn't say. Michael free. Linda's hand in it, no doubt her money, or someone's, greasing the wheels. I needed answers, but first I needed groceries. The fridge was a wasteland and I couldn't hide forever. The local store was a 5-minute walk, its fluorescent lights harsh against the shelves of cereal and canned soup. I limped through the aisles, my basket half empty, when I saw her. Linda, in a tailored coat that screamed money she didn't have, her hair perfect, her smile ablaze. She was talking to Mrs. Porter, the neighborhood gossip, her voice loud enough to carry. "Poor Michael," Linda said, her tone dripping with pity. "His own mother, turning him in like that. After all he's been through." She shook her head, clutching a loaf of bread like it was her heart. Mrs. Porter nodded, her eyes flicking to me, then away. My hands shook, the basket wobbling. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the linoleum, but my feet carried me forward. "Linda," I said, my voice steady despite the heat in my cheeks. "Stop it." She turned, her smile widening, all teeth. "Beth, I was just saying how sad this all is. Family should stick together, don't you think?" Her words were sweet, but her eyes were cold, daring me to fight back. Around us, shoppers slowed, their whispers a low hum, like flies circling. "He stole from me," I said louder than I meant. "He hurt me. You know that." Linda's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Stole? Hurt? Oh, Beth, don't be dramatic. You always did love playing the victim." She stepped closer, her perfume cloying. "You're the one tearing us apart, turning on your own blood." The air felt thick, the stares of strangers pinning me in place. My throat burned, but I lifted my chin. "You're no family, Linda. Not anymore." I turned, abandoning the basket, and limped toward the door, the bell jingling as I pushed through. The street outside was cold, the wind biting, but it couldn't drown out the shame coiling in my gut. Back home, I sank onto the couch, my leg throbbing. The old laptop on the coffee table flickered as I opened it, needing a distraction. But there it was, on the neighborhood's social media page, a post from Linda. A photo of her and Michael, years ago, smiling with a caption. "Praying for my nephew, betrayed by those closest to him. We'll get through this." Comments poured in, neighbors I'd known for years calling me cold, ungrateful, a bad mother. My breath hitched, anger overtaking the shame. They were winning, painting me as the villain. While Michael walked free and Linda played saint. I closed the laptop, my hands trembling, and reached for the folder on the table. Tucked inside was a card Detective Wilson had given me. For a private investigator she trusted. "If you need more than we can do," she'd said. I pulled out the card, its edges worn from my fingers. The number was clear, the name Tom Reese printed in bold. I grabbed my phone, the screen cold against my palm, and dialed, each ring a step toward fighting back. As it connected, I glanced at the front door. Its lock solid, but suddenly not enough. Whatever Linda and Michael were planning, I'd be ready. The library was a sanctuary of silence, its air thick with the scent of old books and polished wood. I sat at a corner table, hidden by stacks of financial guides and legal journals, my crutches leaning against a chair. Papers were spread before me. Bank statements, scribbled notes, a timeline of Michael's withdrawals. My pen moved fast, underlining dates, circling sums, each mark a piece of the truth I was building. My leg ached, but my mind was clear, sharper than it had been in years. For the first time I wasn't reacting, I was planning. I'd spent hours here, piecing together what I could about Michael's theft, but I needed more. Linda's role nagged at me, her smugness in the store, her quick cash for Michael's bail. She'd always been a leech, but this felt bigger, like she was tangled in his schemes. I jotted another note, "Check her accounts," and leaned back, the chair creaking. The library's quiet was a balm, but it couldn't erase the weight of what I was up against. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom Reese, the private investigator. "Meet me at my office, 2 p.m. I glanced at the clock, time to go. I gathered my papers, tucking them into a worn notebook, its pages frayed but precious. The walk to Reese's office was slow, my crutches clicking on the sidewalk, the October air sharp with the promise of rain. His office was a cramped room above a deli, the smell of pastrami faint but persistent. A bulletin board sagged under pinned receipts and photos, and Reese himself was a wiry man with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. He gestured to a chair, its cushion worn thin. "Mrs. Crawford," he said, His voice gravelly but warm. "Wilson says you're serious. Let's see what you've got." I handed him the notebook, my fingers steady. "My son stole from me. Years of savings gone. I think my sister's involved, but I need proof." My voice was firm. No trace of the woman who'd once apologized for Michael's messes. Reese flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing. "This is thorough. You've got dates, amounts, even account numbers." He looked up, a glint of respect in his eyes. "Most people don't get this far. If your sister's tied to this, I'll find it. Bank records, transactions, anything shady." "How long?" I asked, leaning forward. "Couple weeks, maybe less, if the money's moving like you think." He tapped the notebook. "Your son's sloppy, but your sister? She's careful. That's harder to crack." He grinned, dry but genuine. "Lucky for you, I like a challenge." I nodded, a spark of hope flaring. "Just get me the truth. Whatever it takes." Back home, the evening light filtered through the curtains, painting the living room in soft grays. I sat on the porch with Claire, a mug of tea cooling in my hands. She'd come over unasked, her face tight with worry. "Beth, this investigator, what if he stirs up trouble?" she said, her voice low. "Michael's out, and Linda's got half the neighborhood on her side." I sipped the tea, its warmth steadying me. "I'm not stopping, Claire. They've taken enough." My voice was quiet but unyielding, like the oak tree shading the yard. She sighed, twisting her scarf. "I just don't want you hurt. They're not playing fair." "Neither am I," I said, meeting her eyes. She looked away, unsettled, but didn't argue. We sat in silence, the crickets starting their nightly hum, until she hugged me and left, her footsteps fading down the path. I went inside, locking the door behind me, the click loud in the quiet. My notebook lay on the table, a testament to my fight. I was closer than I'd ever been, to unraveling their lies. But as I reached for it, a sharp knock rattled the front door, sudden and heavy. My heart jumped, the phone slipping from my hand to the table. The knock came again, insistent, echoing through the house. I grabbed the phone, my thumb hovering over Wilson's number, and took a step toward the door, every sense on edge, wondering who, or what, was waiting on the other side. The knock came again, sharp and heavy, rattling the front door like a fist against my chest. I stood frozen in the living room, phone clutched in one hand, the other hovering over the light switch. The lamp flickered, casting jagged shadows across the faded wallpaper, where a pile of papers, my evidence against Michael, spilled across the coffee table. Outside, the wind howled, but the knock was louder, deliberate. My heart pounded, each beat a warning. I edged toward the door, my crutches silent on the carpet, and peered through the peephole. Michael's face stared back, distorted, his eyes dark and unreadable. I hesitated, my breath shallow. The lock held, but he had a key. He always had. The knob turned, and the door creaked open, Michael stepping inside like he owned the place. His leather jacket was damp, his boots leaving wet streaks on the floor. "Miss me, Mom," he said, his voice low, a smirk twisting his lips. He tossed a key onto the table, its clatter loud in the quiet. "Get out," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My leg ached, but I stood tall, gripping the phone like a lifeline. He laughed, a harsh sound, and paced the room, his movements restless, like a caged animal. The air smelled of rain and cigarette smoke, clinging to him. "Out." He stopped, turning to face me, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just call the cops, ruin my life, and I'll slink away?" He took a step closer, his boots thumping. "You're in over your head, Mom. You're in over your head, Mom. Those papers you're digging through? They'll bury me, and I won't let you take me down without a fight. You don't know what you're messing with." I backed up, my crutches clicking, but kept my gaze locked on his. "I know you stole from me," I said, my voice cold. "I know you're running from something worse. And I'm not scared of you anymore." His smirk faltered, just for a second, but he recovered, leaning against the couch. "Big talk," he said, his tone mocking. "But you're alone, old lady. No one's coming to save you." His eyes flicked to the papers on the table, and I tensed, ready to grab them if he moved. The phone buzzed in my hand, shattering the silence. Michael's head snapped up, his jaw tightening. I glanced at the screen, Detective Wilson. I answered, keeping my eyes on him. "Beth," Wilson's voice came through, clipped and urgent. "We've got something." Wire transfers linked to your sister. She's been funneling money to Michael's accounts. Looks like she's deeper in this than we thought. My pulse raced, but I kept my face blank. Thanks, Sarah, I said, my voice even. Send me the details. I hung up, slipping the phone into my pocket. Michael watched, his hands clenching, like he could sense the shift. What was that? He demanded, stepping closer. Who are you talking to? None of your business, I said, my voice sharp. You need to leave, Michael. Now. He laughed again, but it was forced, his eyes darting to the door. You think you're smart, huh? Digging into things. You'll regret it. He moved toward the door, pausing to look back, his expression cold. This isn't over, Mom. Not even close. The door slammed behind him, the sound echoing. I limped to it, locking it tight, my fingers trembling as I checked the deadbolt. The house was silent again, but Wilson's words burned in my mind. Linda, tied to Michael's schemes, her money and his crimes. I gathered the papers from the table, tucking them into a drawer, my movements quick, precise. The lamp flickered again, and I froze, hearing a rustle outside, like footsteps on gravel. I grabbed my keys, my eyes on the window, where a shadow moved against the curtains. The phone was still in my pocket, Wilson's number a tap away, but as the noise grew louder, I wondered if I was ready for whoever, or whatever, was out there. The newspaper office smelled of ink and stale coffee, its cramped space humming with the clatter of keyboards and the low buzz of a printer. I sat across from Rachel Carter, a journalist with sharp eyes and a notepad already half filled with my story. My folder of evidence, bank statements, wire transfers, notes from Wilson, lay open between us, its pages worn from my endless handling. My leg was still braced, but I sat straight, my hands steady, the weight of what I was doing fueling me. This was my strike, and it was going to hit hard. These are damning, Mrs. Crawford, Rachel said, her voice crisp as she scanned a transfer link to Linda. Your sister's name on these accounts, funneling money to your son's schemes. It's a story. A big one. She looked up, her pen pausing. You're sure you want this public? It'll turn heads, and not just hers. I nodded, my jaw tight. I'm sure. She's been hiding behind lies too long. The memory of Linda's smirk in the store, her voice dripping with fake pity, burned in my chest. She'd built her life on appearances, and I was about to tear them down. Rachel scribbled a note, her expression focused. I'll need to verify these, but if they check out, this runs tomorrow. Front page. She leaned back, her eyes softening. You're brave, you know. Most people wouldn't take on family like this. I managed a small smile, but my mind was already racing ahead. Brave or not, I was in deep, and there was no turning back. I left the office, the cold air biting as I limped to my car, the folder lighter in my hands but heavy in meaning. The next morning, the newspaper hit the stands. I sat at my kitchen table, the paper spread before me, its headline bold. Local woman implicated in fraud scheme. Linda's name was there, in black ink, tied to Michael's crimes, her carefully curated image shattered. I read the article twice, my heart pounding, a quiet thrill running through me. My first real win. The phone sat beside me, silent for now, but I knew it wouldn't stay that way. It didn't. By noon it rang, Linda's number flashing. I let it ring twice, steeling myself, then answered. Beth, please, she said, her voice ragged, no trace of her usual polish. You've ruined me. The neighbors won't look at me, my friends are gone. Stop this, I'm begging you. I leaned back, the chair creaking, my eyes on the paper. You ruined yourself, Linda, I said, my voice cold, each word deliberate. You chose to help Michael. You chose to lie. She sobbed, a raw, desperate sound. I didn't know it'd go this far. He needed money. I thought I was helping. Her voice cracked, but I felt no pity, only a calm resolve. She'd made her bed, just like Michael. Then tell the truth, I said. To the police, to everyone. Or it gets worse. I hung up, my hand steady, the silence in the kitchen wrapping around me. The article lay open, its ink smudged where I'd touched it, a symbol of Linda's fall. Outside, the street was quiet, but I knew the neighbors were talking, their whispers no longer aimed at me. The phone buzzed again, this time a text from Wilson. New evidence on Michael. Call me. My breath caught, the thrill of victory mixing with a fresh wave of tension. I stood, wincing as my leg protested, and reached for the phone, my fingers brushing the folder beside it. The documents inside were my armor, but Wilson's message hinted at something bigger, something that could end this, or escalate it. As I dialed her number, the front door loomed in my peripheral vision, its lock a reminder of the threat still out there, waiting. Wilson's voice was steady over the phone, but her words hit like a jolt. "Beth, we've got audio from a wiretap." Weeks dragged on, each day a test of my resolve. I'd check in with Wilson, her updates sparse but steady. They were digging into Michael's accounts, chasing leads. My leg healed slowly, the brace a constant reminder, but I kept pushing, meeting Reese for updates, combing through old records. Then finally Wilson called. Michael and Linda, arguing at her place. She's blaming him for the fraud, says he dragged her into it. He's not happy. I stood in my kitchen, the morning light slanting through the blinds. My laptop opened to the newspaper's website, where comments on Linda's article piled up, each one a nail in her reputation. My leg ached, but I barely noticed, my mind racing with what Wilson said next. They're turning on each other. This could break the case wide open. I gripped the counter, the cool edge grounding me. "What's Linda saying?" I asked, my voice low. "She's scared," Wilson said. "Claims Michael forced her to move money, threatened her. She's ready to talk, but he's volatile. Stay sharp, Beth. He might run." The line crackled, then went quiet, Wilson's warning lingering. I set the phone down, my eyes drifting to the front door. Its deadbolt a frail defense against Michael's unpredictability. I needed to see Linda to know how far she'd fallen. I grabbed my keys, ignoring the twinge in my leg, and drove to her house, the neighborhood's familiar streets now tinged with tension. Her place was a showpiece gone to seed. Peeling paint on the shutters, a lawn littered with leaves like confetti from a failed party. I parked and limped to the door, my crutches sinking into the grass. The doorbell chimed, but no answer came. I knocked hard and waited. The door flew open, Linda standing there, her face pale, her hair a mess. Empty wine bottles cluttered the entryway. Papers scattered across the floor like a storm had passed through. "You," she spat, her voice raw. "You did this. You destroyed me." She swayed, clutching the doorframe, her eyes red-rimmed. I stood still, my gaze steady. "You destroyed yourself," I said, my tone even, cutting. "You helped Michael steal from me. You lied to everyone." She laughed, a broken sound, and pointed a trembling finger. "It was him. Michael. He said it was alone, a way out of his mess. I didn't know." Her voice rose, cracking. "You have to stop, Beth. Tell them I'm innocent, please." She stepped forward, her hand grabbing my arm, but I pulled back, my crutches steady. "You're not innocent," I said, my words cold, deliberate. "You chose him over me every time. Now you pay the price." I turned, limping back to the car, her sobs echoing behind me. The leaves crunched under my crutches, each step a reminder of her collapse and mine. I'd won this round, but Michael was still out there, a loose thread ready to unravel everything. Back home, I sank onto the couch, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. My laptop glowed, the article still open, but my mind was on Wilson's call. Michael volatile, maybe running. I opened the folder of evidence, its pages a map of my fight, and started reviewing, my pen moving with purpose. The phone rang, startling me. Rachel Carter, the journalist. "Beth," she said, her voice excited. "I've got new material, text between Michael and some dealers, linked to the fraud. It's explosive. Want to meet tomorrow." My heart leapt, the promise of another blow against them almost too much to hold. I agreed, my voice calm despite the rush. I hung up, my eyes on the folder, its weight a comfort. The documents inside were my weapon, and with Rachel's help, I'd wield them in court, in public, wherever it took. But as I reached for a pen, the phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I froze, my fingers hovering, the front door looming in the corner of my vision, its lock no match for the storm I felt coming. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension, its air thick with the murmur of spectators and the faint creak of benches. I sat at the witness stand, my hands folded over a worn folder, its edges frayed from weeks of handling. My leg brace was gone, but the ache lingered, a reminder of how far I'd come. Across the room, Michael slouched in his chair, his eyes fixed on the table, while Linda sat beside him, her face pale, her hands twisting a handkerchief. Robert King, their lawyer, adjusted his tie, his confidence a thin veneer. I straightened my shoulders, my notes memorized, my voice ready. This was my moment. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, nodded at me. "Mrs. Crawford, proceed." I took a breath, my gaze steady. "Your Honor, I have evidence of fraud and theft committed by my son, Michael Crawford, and my sister Linda Morris." My voice was clear, unwavering, each word a stone in the wall I was building. I opened the folder, pulling out bank statements, wire transfer records, and texts uncovered by Rachel Carter. These documents show Michael siphoned over $30,000 from my savings, with Linda's help. She funneled money through her accounts, knowing it was stolen. The room was silent, the weight of my words sinking in. I handed the documents to the bailiff, my movements precise, deliberate. Michael's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine for the first time, a flicker of panic in them. Linda whimpered, her handkerchief pressed to her mouth. King stood, his voice smooth but strained. "Objection, Your Honor. These are personal grievances, not proof of intent." The judge raised a hand. "Overruled. Continue, Mrs. Crawford." I went on detailing dates, amounts, the lies they'd spun. My voice didn't falter, even as King tried to interrupt, his questions sharp. "You're accusing your own son, Mrs. Crawford?" he said, his tone dripping with disbelief. "Isn't this just a family dispute gone too far?" I looked him in the eye, my jaw tight. "It's not a dispute when someone steals your life's work, Mr. King. It's a crime." A murmur rippled through the courtroom, and I felt a surge of strength, like I was reclaiming every piece of myself they'd taken. The judge's pen scratched, her expression unreadable, but I knew I'd hit my mark. King pressed harder, his questions twisting, trying to paint me as bitter, vengeful. "You've had conflicts with your son before, haven't you? Why should we trust your motives now?" His smirk was calculated, but I saw the sweat on his brow, the way his hands fidgeted. "My motives?" I said, my voice low, cutting. "I trusted them, gave them everything. They betrayed me. These documents don't lie." I gestured to the folder, now in the judge's hands, its pages a testament to my fight. The room felt smaller, the air charged, as if everyone held their breath. I stepped down, my heart pounding but my head high. As I passed Michael, he whispered something to King, his voice too low to catch, but his eyes were wild like a cornered animal. Linda wouldn't look at me, her shoulders hunched, her world crumbling. I took my seat, my hands steady, but a chill ran through me. Michael's whisper, King's quick nod. They were planning something, even now. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a soft buzz against the courtroom's hum. I glanced at it, seeing Wilson's name. A text. "Call me after. Got something on Michael." My pulse quickened, the promise of more answers, more leverage. I slipped the phone back, my eyes on the judge, who was reviewing my documents. The door behind me creaked as someone entered, the sound sharp, pulling my attention. I turned, half expecting trouble, my hand tightening on the bench, ready for whatever came next. The judge's gavel struck, a sharp crack that silenced the courtroom. I sat rigid, my hands clasped, the folder of evidence now a weightless memory in the judge's hands. Michael stood, his wrists cuffed, his face a mask of defiance barely hiding fear. Linda was beside him, her eyes red, her tailored coat wrinkled as if she'd shrunk inside it. The air was heavy, the crowd's whispers a low hum, like static before a storm. "Michael Crawford," the judge said, her voice steady, "you are sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud and assault, with parole eligibility in 3. Michael's jaw clenched, but he didn't look at me, his gaze fixed on the floor. "Linda Morris, you are fined $50,000 and sentenced to 2 years of community service for aiding and abetting." Linda gasped, a choked sound, her hand clutching the table. The gavel struck again, sealing their fates. I exhaled, a tremor running through me. It was done. The room blurred, faces and voices fading as the weight of years lifted, replaced by a strange mix of triumph and ache. I'd won, but the cost was etched in the lines of Michael's face, the slump of Linda's shoulders. My family, or what was left of it, was gone. Yet I felt no regret, only a quiet strength, like a fire that had burned away the past. At the police station, I sat across from Detective Wilson, a stack of papers between us. The room smelled of coffee and ink, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly. She slid a document toward me, her expression warm but professional. These transfer your accounts back to you, Beth. The funds we recovered, most of them anyway. Sign here. Her pen tapped the page, a small, encouraging sound. I took the pen, its weight solid in my hand, and signed, each stroke a reclaiming of what was mine. Thank you, Sarah. I said, my voice soft but steady. For everything. She leaned back, a rare smile breaking through. You did the heavy lifting, Beth. Not many could have pulled this off. Her eyes held mine, a quiet respect in them. What's next for you? I paused, the question lingering. I'm not sure, I said, my fingers brushing the signed papers. Maybe a fresh start. The words felt new, fragile but right. I'd spent decades tethered to Michael, to Linda, to this house. Now I could choose. Wilson nodded, gathering the papers. You've earned it. Stay in touch. She stood and I followed, my steps lighter, the station's chaos fading as I walked out into the cool Chicago air. The street was alive, cars honking, leaves skittering across the pavement, but I felt apart from it, my mind turning inward. Victory was mine, but it was bittersweet, the silence of my old life louder than ever. My phone rang as I reached my car, Claire's name lighting up the screen. I answered, leaning against the door, the metal cold through my coat. Beth, you did it, she said, her voice bright, almost giddy. Come over tonight. I'm making lasagna, and we're celebrating you. I smiled, the first real one in weeks. I'll be there, I said, picturing her warm kitchen, the clink of wine glasses. Thanks, Claire. I hung up, sliding into the driver's seat, my eyes catching on my house across the street, its familiar outline now foreign. A for sale sign stood in the neighbor's yard, bold and red, a reminder of change, of possibilities. I started the car, the engines hummed steady, but my gaze lingered on that sign. The phone rested in my lap, silent for now but full of potential. Calls to make, plans to set. The road stretched ahead, and as I pulled away, I wondered what lay beyond this street, this life, and whether I was truly ready to find out. The veranda creaked under my weight, the old wicker chair groaning as I sat, a pen in one hand, a stack of papers in the other. The morning air was crisp, scented with cut grass and the faint promise of fall. Before me lay the final documents for the sale of the house, their crisp edges a stark contrast to the worn wood of the table. I signed my name, Elizabeth Crawford, each letter deliberate, a quiet farewell to the life I'd built here. The house, with its chipped paint and sagging porch, had been my anchor, my burden. Now it was someone else's future. I set the pen down, my eyes drifting to the street, where kids rode bikes, their laughter sharp and free. This had been Michael's world once, his small hands clutching handlebars I'd worked overtime to buy. The memory stung, but it was softer now, a bruise fading. I'd spent decades pouring myself into him, into Linda, thinking it was love. But it was also blindness. Selling the house wasn't just about money, it was about letting go, about choosing me. Inside, boxes lined the living room, labeled for storage or donation. My suitcase sat by the door, packed for a trip I dreamed of since I was young. Paris, its streets alive with history, its skies untouched by my past. I stood, stretching, and carried the papers to the mailbox, the flag snapping up with a satisfying click. The door closed behind me, its thud final, a sound I wouldn't hear again. Later, in the park, I sat with Claire on a blanket, the grass cool beneath us. The swings creaked nearby, kids shrieking as they soared. Claire poured wine into plastic cups, her smile warm, her gray hair catching the golden light. To you, Beth, she said, raising her cup. To Paris, to new beginnings. I clinked my cup against hers, the wine tart on my tongue. To freedom, I said, my voice soft but sure. It's strange, you know. I thought I'd feel heavier. But I don't. She nodded, her eyes kind. You've carried enough. Now you get to live. She leaned back, sipping her wine. What's the first thing you'll do in Paris? I laughed, a sound that felt new. Walk along the Seine maybe. Eat a croissant in some tiny cafe. Just be. The words were simple, but they held a weight, a promise I'd never dared make before. We talked longer, the sun dipping low, the park glowing with the last of the day's light. As we packed up, I pulled a postcard from my bag, its image of the Eiffel Tower vibrant, almost alive. I'd bought it years ago, a silly dream tucked in a drawer. Now it was real, its edges smooth from my touch. You'll send me one of these, right? Claire teased, nudging me. Count on it, I said, grinning. We hugged, her warmth lingering as she walked off, her scarf fluttering. I stayed a moment, the postcard in my hand, the park's quiet wrapping around me. The swings slowed, there creaks a soft rhythm, and I felt it, freedom, like a breath I'd forgotten how to take. My pocket crinkled, a letter I'd found in the mailbox that morning. Its return address, a prison in Illinois. Michael's handwriting, jagged and familiar, stared up at me. I turned it over, my fingers tracing the seal, but I didn't open it. Not yet, maybe not ever. His words, whatever they were, apology, anger, manipulation, belonged to the past, and I was done living there. I slipped the letter back into my pocket, unopened, and held the postcard tighter. The sun sank, painting the sky in pinks and golds, a canvas of what was to come. My phone sat silent in my bag, no longer a tether to threats or evidence, but a tool for plans, for tickets, for a life I was building. I turned toward home, or what had been home, my steps light, the park fading behind me, and wondered what Paris would feel like under my feet, with no one to answer to but myself. If you like this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Please help me reach 300 subscribers by the end of this week. Thank you for watching.